Welcome to another special march in this heat wave, 35 degrees. Special march for the fast food workers, And I begin again a series for special workers at the North American Collectif Civilisation complex for the 10, the 50, and the 63. Oh yeah, when you hit in the sun. Hot as yesterday, 6th day of the heat wave. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Got that backpack, got those military grade boots. So always encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. And working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice. 24/7 for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, daycare workers, changing some diapers. It is 3:06. Just left. I got delayed by, I guess, a few hours because I said I was gonna do some geopolitics, and I went up from an hour to 4 hours. So I left a little bit on the late side, but hey, I guess better late than never. You know how it is. We always gotta do with the time and a quarter time. But for Aspies, of course, it could be more difficult to have the time management as neurotypicals. You know, if you know, I live with this neurological mental divergent condition called Asperger's, and today, marching to my second home, the mountain, Mount Royal, on this special heat wave edition. Gotta watch when you cross the road, so that the cars, you gotta turn your head left and right, you know. And of course it's something which you gotta do yourself, and always gotta get it on that prudence, and always gotta get it for the left, the right, the center, and in the middle, and cross the street prudently because it's hot and the brakes might malfunction. The citizen driver might press the accelerator instead of the brake, so you always gotta watch it a little bit on that double trouble. Always saluting the public bus drivers, public sanitation workers as well, those who pick up the garbage, the recycling today, special for the workers in the fast food. Those, of course, fast food workers who get their drills and get it on the go, and all those involved in the distribution of food. And that's, of course, how we rock and roll it for those firefighters, the plumbers, the butchers, the daycare workers, the nurses. And today's special dedicated to the fast food workers. Always gotta put it in for the fast food workers, you know. And I guess you got enough of my fin. Gotta look at that beautiful cars here in Montreal, Hot Island, admiring a little bit of that beautiful color. And I just gotta say that it's a lovely color, flaming orange like that, orange reddish. And that is sometimes which we gotta get doing with that. And that is sometimes which we have to get doing and get, of course, involved, you know, in admiring these beautiful colors, because some of them are just very rare. Like that one is on a rare occasion, and it's something which is rare occasion to see such a car such as that one, you know. And that is just a beauty, and this is just a beauty where we are in the streets and we admire and we see, at least for me, because, you know, I like those bright colors. And yeah, I really love that one. Encouraging you all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. Stay hydrated. Today is hot. I see a lot of people getting in that shade, and, you know, if I need be, I'm definitely gonna get on that sunscreen. And of course, it's something which we gotta admire together, and we gotta do. And here you got a dog park, and if it's a dog park, you can enjoy yourself. There's a lot of dog parks here in Montreal, Hot Island, that are very nice, especially one close to the Empress Theater and around about Montreal. So yeah, I can only go with poodles to pet them because I get a little bit of hyper allergies. I get allergic reaction, not severe, but I get on the sneezing marathons if they get too close for me. That's what we have to do, you know. Get a broom if you need some cleaning. My anonymous friend got a new broom, and it's always a more cleaning. Every day you gotta clean, I took a cold bath before I left, and just gotta turn my head here before I cross the street. And I'm waiting to cook the corn that I got yesterday There's a common fridge here, a community fridge, and I gotta keep it clean, and I wish I put more than I take, you know. I wish I fill it up one day with just sweets and desserts and all sorts of good stuff. And see, now you have this if you want to enjoy that. And there's a black banana. Should we eat this banana? That's red from the beets, and beets, I have a few beets at home, but here you can have some soup if you want. And we're gonna eat this banana, I guess, on the way. And you got another food here if you're interested. And sometimes that's full, and that's what we take a lot. And let's eat this banana. Turn your head left and right before you cross the street, and no waste, no food waste, I guess. This is a black banana, but it's still edible, and that red comes from the beets. You know, the beets are red, so let's enjoy it in the sun. It's still good. I don't have an OnlyFans account, but I guess if I would have an OnlyFans account, it would be for me eating blackened bananas like this. It's not all black, but you can see it's part black, and inside, of course, it's still the yellow. But just the exterior, see? The interior is still good. So don't throw them away if they're like this, eh? Even if they're blackened like this. I actually like them like this, you know? I like them blackened on the exterior, and inside, you know, you still have that good yellow, although it's kind of, what I like about it is that it's really cold and really sweet. Thank you. There was a little bit of that nutrition for the go, you know. So again, I just mentioned OnlyFans because it popped in my feed, some controversy about OnlyFans, and I don't have an OnlyFans myself, and I know that it's mostly for sex work. I'm not a sex worker, of course. I don't think I would be good at it anyways, unless it's that rock and roll, but more than loving for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors. I guess I would dedicate my work for for those making minimum wage, you know. The bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the firefighters, the electricians, the butchers. And here we can put this banana to compost there because it's organic, so we could put it in the corner here because this is a growth operation, but it seems like it's overgrown. It hasn't been maybe taken care of as it would have should have been. But whatever, I don't know exactly who's in charge of that, but whatever the case may be. And I stopped watching myself. I know that OnlyFans now has become a lot of adult content, and myself, you know, I stopped watching pornography. I think it's 3.5 years in September. September probably is going to be 4 years. Actually, it might be now that it's already 4 years. So it might be that it's been 4 years since I stopped watching pornography. I'm assuming it's between June and September. Look at those beautiful white flowers. So I don't morally object to it. I don't criticize it. I don't morally object to it. Of course, if there's certain ethics, such as age of consent and 18 plus, and if it's not age of consent, then yes, I'm concerned about those ethics. If it involves the security, safety, and mental health of minors and all that, or if there's abuse and non-consensual adults. But of course, besides that, if it's legal, I don't morally, ethically object, you know. I don't morally, ethically object with that, but that is something which, of course, it's for the individual who might enjoy to watch and might enjoy to watch himself, and that's what we have to do, you know, to get it on the go and turn the heady there where I cross the street, you know, to just be sure that you cross the street prudently and in a prudent manner, because my fellow citizens is on the hot side. I see people getting on that heat stroke type of situation, you know, if it's too hot like this. And it's really hot today. Yesterday was the hottest day, I think, for me too in the past years. But as far as my memory goes, you know, we got a retrograde amnesia, so I have trouble remembering my life prior to spring 2014, which is Actually, it's far away if you think about it. That's more than 11 years and 4 months ago. 2014, spring, about March, April 2014, you know. Between February 2014, March 2014, April 2014. So my life prior to that date, meaning spring 2014, I have problems remembering my life prior to that time. But that's already 11 years ago, right? 11 years and 4 months ago. So whatever it is, I'm joyous today, although financially stressed. I gotta begin this journey to my second home, the mountain, with gratitude. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and that's how we're gonna rock and roll it, you know, always interprojecting and always on that fitness journey. It starts for me always today. And like I said, in regards to the adult content, you know, I'm not gonna discuss it now because I think I'm in the clear zone, because there might be youths around here, and I'm just gonna go on my way, and just gonna go, of course, on my way. So, but yeah, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. And working out, training, exercising is, of course, I love to see that rainbow flag. I am part of the LGBTQ community, so whenever I see that rainbow flag, it's always good. And those four suns, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 suns, you know. Beautiful suns, smiley suns. And here, you know, you got a cross Brunei. That's a Hydro-Quebec truck. Thank you, workers of Hydro-Quebec workers down there. They're doing some of that arbeit. And me, it's always my independent work for years and years and years. But that is, of course, something which we have to, of course, be mindful about. That I got this electricity in my work tool, this special smartphone, and they're doing that work. And gotta always salute the Hydro-Quebec workers. Always thinking about how they constructed, built with brains and muscle, all the dams across the Quebec-Labelle province territory in the 20th century. We now have 63, and of course it's always for the 63 of our coming empire fusion, of course. And that's why we got a big privilege of civilization, because civilization is a privilege. As I go now on these unedited, raw, real, and kind of freestyle philosophical, geopolitical discussions and rock and roll style with yours truly, independent Aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical understand who loves those yellow flowers there. I love yellow burgeoning flowers, and those yellow burgeoning flowers are always a pleasure for me to look upon, and that's just even the smaller ones, and that's what I love. Oh yeah, and here you got a community garden in Montreal, H-A-W-K, Hawk Island metropolis. It's always Island of the Hawk, you know. Always Island of the Hawk with that, and always whoopee. Meditating on all the things that are ongoing now and across the 63, especially the truckers as well. Construction workers on the heat wave here. Very hot, as you can see these beauties right here. Got some bees on them, and you know where there's bees, there's honey. Love me some yellow flowers, gotta sing it, rock and roll. For you know, up in the go, the sun is shining, that's the sun. Storm's supposed to come tomorrow, I guess that's some good rain. And hey, look at these beautiful yellows. Aren't they just gorgeous? They quadruple my smile. Always love, get a little bit of a vitality, I guess, from whenever I pass by yellow flowers. Love me some yellow flowers. I gotta wait for some showers, cause it's gonna be a hot day today. Got that heat wave. Got some flowers in the middle. Got some pots, you know, with Skittles. Yeah, so 24/7 for the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the plumbers, the electricians, grocery store clerks, all involved in the production and the distribution of food, you know. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta do on that meditation, and we gotta, of course, affirm our interdependence, interconnectedness in all the things which we do, from the individual who's involved, brothers and sisters, workers who take care of our public embellishments or the public spheres, and the public workers, I guess they're on that vacation August, so there's not a lot of public work because it's a vacation season, I think, until 2 more weeks. Now today is the 12th of August, especially Imperial March for the 63, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. Rainbow Dragon, independent artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, and mystic, and independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, thinker, theorist, and strategist. I develop strategies, of course, for the North American Collectif due to my Asperger's condition, which is a neurological mental divergent condition, which is not a mental illness. And of course, it is something which I have to do and something which I get engaged in every day with a ritual-like routine, you know. We have these ritualized routines, Aspies, and we have certain situations where we are less able. We have our vulnerabilities and we have our weirdness in certain things, but now when it comes to certain matters where we excel in, you know, we excel in other things and we excel in some things, but we lack other skills, if you don't know what I'm referring to. And I'm making a reference that I live with a condition called Asperger's. It is not a mental illness. It is not a disease. I am not a disease. I am an N.A.C.W.P who is also an androgynous pansexual, part of the Rainbow Nation and LGBTQ community. And I have Asperger's. This is a neurological mental divergent condition which makes me, of course, predisposed to those special interests. Makes me different from you, the 99.56 majority of the population, you know, and that difference is, of course, always concluded and internalized in certain aspects of our characteristics of how we manifest and how we interact and how we communicate. Sometimes it could be more odd or more different from what's considered to be, in parentheses, normal, and we are described often as not normal or even weird, awkward, bizarre, and all those words can be described by neurotypicals to describe us Aspies, which we constitute a minority of the population, of course, which is less than 1%, not even 0.5%, and about 0.44%. So 0.44% is not a large part of the population, and a lot of people don't even know what Asperger's is. And they confuse it often with a mental illness, which again, it's not a mental illness. It is not a disease. It is a neurological mental divergent condition which makes us socially more, I would say, more restricted. We have more difficulties. We're even impeded because of these mutations that are at the microscopic level of the brain, and they're not externally visible outside of the cranium, but they are internal at the microscopic level, at the nano level. Think about, you could make a comparison if you want to think in terms, of course, of a microchip. If you want to think in terms of a transistor, in such terms, if you want to relate to the smallness of these mutations, which again, they're not outwardly visible, they're internal inside the brain. And due to those mutations, we have these weird, odd, strange, bizarre, and more eccentric characteristics, not symptoms, because again, it's not a disease and there's no treatment per se, only certain treatment, but no medication, chemical medication. Look at that gorgeous garden right there. There's no medical medication, right? You cannot medicate Asperger's. Cannot be medicated, you know. So you cannot medicate Asperger's, but one can work on the characteristics. So you cannot medicate Asperger's, and because the cause is inconclusive. So whether the cause is hereditary cause, or whatever the case may be, hereditary, that is biological genetic, transmitted by hereditary genetic biological factors, or if it's environmental. So it's inconclusive of the cause. That is, the cause. What causes Asperger's again? There's no consensus. It's not inconclusive. However, it's long term, long life. You live with Asperger's. You learn as an Asp to manage these characteristics again. To manage these characteristics, these traits, you need to manage them, or you learn how to live with them, because again there's no medication, and there's no medication for them, for Aspies. And again, we're a tiny community, and even me, it took me years and years, because to be honest, I've been diagnosed independently by several citizens who had experience in the health profession, in the healthcare, and several individual citizens in the past 7, 8, 9 years. And I always rejected it, for like 6 years I rejected, because I didn't want to wear the stigma, the label of this HFA, high functioning autism, and this Asperger's to be different, because Aspies were different. We're different from the majority of the population here, the 99.56%, because we see the world differently, and our brains function differently, and we process certain information differently, and thus there's a lot of work which has been done in the 20th century, because it's a 20th century condition again, especially the 21st century. The 21st century there's been a lot of progress been done, and I'm not gonna say that I can fully accept ABC's documentary. There's an ABC documentary which of course states that actually Asperger's, gotta salute the public workers. Thank you for doing the potholes driving more safer, and public work is super important, so of course that is something which we have to do, and we have to appellate, and of course all that appellation which we have to do is of course the appellations which you have to integrate with you, the 99.56%, by building bridges, whether small bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. Those 4 categories I'm speaking as in terms of if you would order, a coffee or fries, you order small fries or medium fries or large fries or extra large. So within those 4 categories, within those 4, you have subcategories. So basically it's to formulate an understanding, of course, of the confluence of all the terms, which is that we need to build bridges. Us Aspies with you, and you with us. So it's a reciprocal, because I don't have antagonistic feelings. I don't have towards you, the 99.56%. I don't have antagonistic feelings, resentful feelings. I've suffered, struggled, been depressed, and the 3 main problems which we Aspies encounter are these main 3 problems. Lack of friends. We don't have a lot of friends, Aspies. We have trouble maintaining friends, because you are the 99.56%. So you see the world differently. On us, sometimes we can be pretty direct, So we can, of course, offend sometimes. Of course. And that offensiveness sometimes can be by our directness, By our directness. So, of course, we can offend. We can be direct by certain means. And that's why I don't want to waste nobody's time. And just gonna go look at those flowers there in the corner. What a gorgeous little garden. So that's why I'm always stating from now on, it is August 12th. I don't want to waste nobody's time. It's friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only, Friends with benefits only. Thanks for understanding. I don't want to waste nobody's time. Friends with benefits only. Just don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. I could die today. Bury me with Papa Crowley, or third me up in New Jersey. May I be avenged 11-fold. Don't turn the other cheek. I owe nobody nothing, not a zero, paid my rent, paid my electricity. That's it. And that's what it is with that. And friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. You gotta be 18 plus though, eh? If you wanna do some loving, you're black, you're white or black, you're a man or a woman or a man, then you gotta be 18 plus. They're gonna ask you for cards and proof of age, just like when you go with a bar, just like when you go with a bar, just like when you go with a bar, just like when you go buy some cigarettes, just like when you go buy some cigarettes, and just like when you go buy some booze, some liquor. Cannabis here is legal across coast to coast, ocean to ocean, has been so since 2019, and that is a gorgeous color. Isn't that just beautiful how it is? It's a nice turquoise. Wow, it's a nice color. So the main problems for Aspies is lack of friends. We tend to not have a lot of friends or lose friends because of this condition, you know, which is a condition. It's not an illness. And please, just last week, as a matter of fact, exactly a week ago, last Tuesday, after I went out from the movies, went to a store with my anonymous friend, who I gotta thank for gifting me 2 books on autism generally and Asperger. There's a few chapters on Asperger specifically, and 1 book specifically and only related to Asperger's, which was rented because it was a library loan. She rented it out for me 4 times, and those 4 times I read it a few times. It's called Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. It's called Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. So it's a syndrome, it's a condition. Neurological mental divergent condition, not a disease. And last week I was discussing with somebody, and I realized that I was too close at one point, because Aspies, you know, we tend to breach personal space. You know, the 2 meters, 1.5 meters, 2 feet, 3 feet. You know, the 3 around personal space, 3 feet or whatever. And we tend to breach it, because these things don't come easy. The social norms and when to speak, when not to speak. That says RA. I don't know. When to speak, when not to speak. Such matters of social engagement and civilizational conduct or societal conduct, not written rules, not written norms. Those come up. Those can be more difficult for us. You know, so I was getting too close, and I realized, I have to take a step back. So I took a step back, and I mentioned about Asperger's. He said, oh yeah, I know what it is, it's a disease. And I said, no. And he said, oh yeah, it's a disease. And I said, no again. So of course, he corrected himself, says, yeah, it's not a disease, really, it's a neurological. And then she said, condition. And so I said, yes, it's a condition. Don't use the word disease, because a lot it has happened that people use that word, and I'm not a disease. We Aspies, we're not a disease. It's just that there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work which has been done in the 21st century, and as I said, a good documentary, good presents exactly what it's a possibility, although I'm not going to say yes. I have to watch it again, by ABC. ABC produced a documentary called relating Asperger's as the next process in human evolutionary process, as a next human evolutionary process, as a next process in humans evolutionary process. Humans evolutionary process. Asperger's is a human evolutionary process. Now I don't know, because I don't have a lot of information in regards to that. So I have to watch it again to really go into the neuroscience and their propositions, and of course their kind of, you know, their, in many ways, their theorem, you know, scientific theory, if we want, and which they believe to be true, that Asperger's in fact is an evolutionary process. So that's why it's a small community, small minority, and then that means that in the coming years and decades, I guess, more and more people will have it. It will be more common. But that doesn't necessarily mean, that means that it's a combination maybe of, because it's unconclusive, the cause. It's either hereditary, genetic, or environmental, right? Environmental. What I do know is that it's 0.44% from the North American perspective, so that is less than 1% have it, and I'm one of those. And I have to always work on those characteristics, and I've only accepted it about 3.5 years ago during COVID, because for more than 6 years I kind of rejected it, and until finally I said, I am an N.A.C.W.P, that makes sense. I lose my jobs, and I have jobs, I keep them for a few months, 4 months, 3 months, few weeks, and because socializing can be more awkward, weird. We can be very direct sometimes, very straightforward, and that can cause, it's not that we want to be insensitive or like that, and we are empathetic, we have compassion, we have empathy, but our compassion and our empathy, so our compassion and empathy is more by direct action, if you want to fully understand it. So we would do, if you're a friend or a friend with benefits, we would do, and N.A.C.W.P would definitely do or offer to do certain things for you if you can. For example, if you're sore, if you have a soreness from the muscle soreness, whatever the case may be. So if you have a soreness, a muscle soreness, whatever the case, if you are in such a position, we would offer to whatever, if we can provide relief, right? If we can provide relief, so if we can provide relief, then we would, for a certain, if we can, financial help, whatever. I mean, I'm just financially stressed. My only stress now is financial, really, and commercial financial stress. Besides that, of course, it's not something that I kind of protrude to live within the situation where we are, of course, the simulacrum of all this complexity of civilization which we live under, in which we have a diverse population, but then you have the neurotypicals, you the 99.56%, the vast majority of the population, in contrast with us, zero, who are less than 1%. Aspies and autistics being part of them, and other neurodivergent fellow brothers and sisters. So that is where some of the problems come. And the three main problems for Aspies are, again, lack of friends. My solution is friends with benefits only, exchanging massages. You want to work out, train, exercise, dance, support my dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. Get acquainted with my dream, which is fundamentally a call for a mass public-private partnership on creating 2 complementary public-private partnership institutions across the North American Collective, being, of course, the Dragon Army, aka Integrated Dance League, Imperial Integrated Dance League, to dance for the environment and Mother Nature, and the Dragon Army, aka Integrated Imperial SSD Legion, SSD, Security Service and Defense Legion. So that's the rock and roll. The other problem for Aspies is, of course, high depression and suicidal rates. I was there for a few years, and I remember moving. I thought it was 2016, but it's 2015 that I moved summer. So that's a nice color there. It was like ice creamish, like a little ice cream type of cool. It's really nice. So with high depression and suicidal rates, I was there for like 3 years. I was depressed, suicidal, and what got me out of being depressed and suicidal was crossing Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, 2017. And I have to check those tickets. It's either the 15th of August that we arrived there. That means that we left on the 11th of August, or we left, August 2017. I went with my anonymous friend, Vancouver, British Columbia, and then September 2017 we came back to Montreal, and we went all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So summer, because September was still summer, we came back on the 20th of September, so 2 more days of summer. So in summer 2017 we crossed Canada, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We went to the Pacific, and then we went to the Atlantic to the east, Pacific to the west. So Vancouver to Halifax, that is Nova Scotia, British Columbia first. So crossing Canada coast to coast made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and I've established that strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians ever since. I consider Quebecers Canadians, North Americans my family, my brothers and sisters in the 50 states as well, because I am also a mystic. not just an artist, philosopher, and independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, thinker, and strategist, but also a mystic. I lived in the United States in previous incarnations, past lives. Once I was born a woman, post 7076. Post 7076. Twice I was born as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces 2 times. Those wars were 156 years apart. 2 times, twice, 2 times. 2 times served in the same United States Armed Forces, but the wars were far apart in terms of the timeline, 156 years apart. And I was born here as a man, a woman, a man, due to my reincarnations. That's why I am 50-50 now, androgynous, pansexual, you know. So I'm here and gonna wait a few seconds. Let's see. It's a bit HOT, so gonna let it, of course, the pipes to clear and get some of that hydration for the go, because we're gonna to my second home. So those are the problems: and depression, suicidal, lack of friends. And the third problem is high unemployment. The unemployment for Aspies is totally unacceptable. Stands at more than 80%. 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. 80%, sometimes even higher than 80% of Aspies, people like myself, are unemployed. And I had many jobs myself, but it's just keeping them that is a problem, because of the way we socialize, we interact with others socially, and this can be very difficult. What for Aspies, I guess, is just go in, do our jobs, and interact personal other issues as least as possible, less as possible, about spiritual beliefs or sexuality or other things and culture and other things of the world. It would just be more best, I guess, if we go, we do the job, and we don't have to, unless if it's customer service, then yeah, but you know, I think that would be best for Aspies. Then Aspies would maintain the jobs, but otherwise it's tough for Aspies, because we interact socially, we can be very direct, straightforward, and that can be offensive sometimes, you know. From a socialization perspective and social cultural perspective as well. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why we got enough for us to go all the way to the mountain. It's really a heat wave today also. It's when I saw 35 yesterday and today, I never saw that before. I never saw that before 35, you know. So I never saw that before 35, you know. 35 degrees, you know, that's what it is. 35 degrees, you know. That is something which I gotta be, of course, meditating about, and that's, of course, something which I have to be in the position, of course, of the things which we have to be doing, you know. And that's just our position, is that we are strange verbally, you know. Like we wouldn't know if somebody is interested in us sexually or romantically. Not too much, maybe a little bit, but we would have to be told more directly, you know, because we just kind of don't get the non-written social cues, you know. So that's why, if you want to be a friends with benefits, we can rock and roll, you know, rock and roll with that, and that's what we have to do, you know. And that's how we gotta get on that go, man, you know, as we go, you know, for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And we wouldn't know these, it's more tough. I mean, some aspects more than others, but me as an individual aspect, I wouldn't know if somebody would actually want to be, I'm not looking for anything serious, to be honest. I'm actually gonna propose again. I gotta get a to an old friend. I proposed already twice. Special type of marriage, I guess. If it's gonna be a yes, hopefully so. Otherwise, I'm gonna do like Joe Biden, keep asking. Supposedly the 7th time, Joe Biden when he proposed, So I'm planning to propose by another deadline. I said by September 11th. September 11th, September 9th, September 9th. I guess I keep missing deadlines, and there's a beautiful truck there. And we're different Aspies, we don't, because our brain is different, right? So I would just express to somebody that I would want to be friends with benefits to somebody, whether man or woman, and if I'm not really looking, I'm not sexually frustrated. I would be honest if I would be, I have a good, there's no children around. I have a pretty good, a healthy masturbation. I have a pretty good healthy masturbation, and I talk openly about my clit, dick, androgynous rocket. Sometimes it goes high up. Thank God it's blessed sun rocket with the moon 50-50. The sun and the moon conjoined. But I have a condition. I have no money to $300. It costs. I contacted 7 different dermatologists in Montreal, but of course, four out of those 7 was at least $300 for a consultation, because I have this big patch of, not sure what it is exactly on the genitalia. It's like it itches. Sometimes I have to scratch, and now I have a technique. I put some cream. It's still itches sometimes, but I still apply some cream on it. But it's it looks like it gets bigger as an erection. As I get erections, it gets bigger with the erection, and maybe it's psoriasis or eczema, or maybe a patch of enzymic psoriasis type of scar, like, it's even the skin is different. So whatever the case may be, I don't know, because I went 10 years ago. I went for STDs, and it wasn't an STD, because that's what I thought it was, and it wasn't an STD. So I don't have money to go to a dermatologist, but I'll update whenever I do online. I'll update what it is, if it was eczema or psoriasis or just a scar, because it gets under my my 50-50 androgynous, sometimes rocket genitalia, penis. Gotta salute the truckers. Health is important. If you have some health, I guess sometimes financially when we have some health concerns it's more difficult, but otherwise, working out, training, exercising, since I started my fitness journey 2017, it keeps me in health. And I gotta share some health and love to the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and thinking about all the truckers now across the 63, the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, the construction workers, and now how my brain works due to Asperger's. I put this point event where I cross this, of course, path here on the bridge, and being that I cross the path on the bridge, of course I always interject, and my mind always switches to geopolitics in a certain sense. And of course I know that there's thousands of truckers with it crossing now all the Canada and the United States, and I just saw 4 in a row, and some of those 4 trucks, I don't know what they were carrying, but probably they were carrying some. It could have been possibility, that is, the possibility could have been that they were carrying some bacon, some bread, some cheese, some sausage, some milk, some things which would have been, of course, super good and super important for our and eggs and milk and bread and butter and cheese and other products, romaine lettuce, sausages, etc., 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 etc. That would have been, of course, that are super important for our continuing civilizational complex, continuing of our health and wellness. And everybody gotta eat, even Wall Street, so they gotta be mindful of that, as these prices keep getting higher and higher every day. And mindful of the economic pressures, having lost many employments, as I had many jobs in the past years, and some jobs lasted a few months, 4 months, 3 months, few weeks, few months, few weeks, few months. So that is problematic for Aspies. We stand at a very high unemployment rate. It is the unemployment rate, it's more than 80%. Think about that. That's 80, 8-0, that's 4 out of 5. That's 8 out of 10. So it's totally unacceptable. If we have to work on that a lot, and I have to work on my characteristics because they're not symptoms. And of course, all the characteristics, of course, that we work on and we have to do is something which we have to do completely. And of course, of course, it takes an intergenerational as well, meaning the different generations have to work on it together, and we have to build bridges. We have to build bridges, small bridges, big size bridges, medium size bridges, large bridges. Within those 4 categories of bridges, there's other subcategories, but nonetheless, we have to build those bridges, right? We have to build those bridges, and gotta congratulate my anonymous, gonna call him cousin, brother there on the bike on a heat wave, pushing those pedals. It's definitely something which I gotta applaud and laud. You know, you're out on a heat wave like this with these beautiful flowers there. Look at those beautiful yellows and oranges. Aren't they just cute? And that's what it is with that. And that's just how we gotta go do. Sometimes just gotta applaud others as well, as I always do for the firefighters, the truckers, the plumbers, the electricians, you know, the welders, public workers, those changing the diapers in the daycares now. Always gotta think about them as well, you know. Gotta put them in, of course, in the parallel where we are now and where we are to go. And I gotta admire this beautiful architecture here, you know. The architectural style here is kind of nice, and I always admire all my videos when I pass by that special structure. You see it, of course, in many videos, and I always admire how it is done there, and always wonder what type of architectural style that is, you know, because it's seems a bit baroque, kind of maybe between 1840s and 1880, you know, something which could have been done. And these beautiful flowers there, and we're gonna go up now on this street. Usually we go by that way, but I want to do a little bit interjection and cross a little bit on the other side just to show the other building here. So it's gonna look my way, maybe not. See, that's why you have to be prudent, because it's hot, and forgot to look the other way. See, she didn't turn towards me. He turned only because this is in theory one way, right? But still, it's best if you turn on the other way as well, you know, just to make sure. Make sure. I of course encourage all to turn. So I decided myself to turn here because usually we go straight, and just change a little bit the trajectory, because you see most of my videos going to the mountain kind of follow the same pattern and the same paths, but sometimes we just gotta change those paths a bit, leading to the same place. And Aspies, I don't resist or mind change that much, but yes, we do have, most Aspies we have, including myself, we have these ritual-like routines, and that's the problem of a major impediment to other things, and considering other things of society, is that we have these patterns, right? We have these patterns, but they're not really patterns. It's a ritual-like routines. They're like a ritual routine. So we might do the same things over and over and over and over daily. And we have what's called special interest Aspies. People with Asperger's, we have a special interest, also known as obsessive interest, but it doesn't render anybody justice, including myself as an Aspie, to utilize the word obsessive, because an obsession is more for you, the neurotypicals. But us Aspies, we have to be supported in those special interests, because we can excel, we can become very good at them. And my trinity of special interests, which is 24/7 basically, I'm super intense, super concentrated, super focused, super engaged in it, super engaged when I'm involved in those special interests at any given point in time. I'm super engaged, you know. So that, of course, engagement, including that beautiful there bill with those beautiful theirs, and that is something which we have to do, and we have to do undergo for that, and that's how we have to get doing, you know. So that is just what we have to do. So our engagement, our routines are with ritual-like routines on a daily basis. So these ritualized type of routines are, we can be super intense, super focused, super concentrated when we study, when we work, or when we are engaged in them. So depending on what they are, it can be a variety of different things. Because an N.A.C.W.P could have cars, automobiles, car manufacturing, and he would know, he, she, whatever the case may be, the N.A.C.W.P would know so much about a car by just looking at it. Would they be able to maybe tell you some details, the date of fabrication, how much gas it consumes per 100 liters, what is the most problem in manufacturing, what it's made of, and all these technical details an N.A.C.W.P will be able to tell you. But an N.A.C.W.P could also have a special interest, arts and crafts, history, it could be computers. Me, that's in a parallel life, science and technology. I build supercomputers, satellites, microchips, radio, telecommunications, and coding, and satellites, because it's science, technology, and which are my special interest in that parallel life. In this life, it's geopolitics 24/7, sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll. I always rock and roll. It's great on a daily for years and years and years. Basically, I do the vocal. I sing them, although I might not have the voice for them, but I write and I create them orally. Oral creation, oral transmission, and I can transmit and get that oration and get the oratory and get the oration with it, and that's of course something which I have to get doing for, and I gotta get that doing. Look at this, an apple. So that's basically my engagement, is gotta turn my head left and right here, because sometimes they might come from that side or from that side or from that side even. So always double check, make sure that you cross the street, and there you have the prudence to get crossing of the street safely and in a manner, of course, which is inclusive for my safety, my security, with the inclusiveness of the driver, the fellow sovereign citizen as I am, and as somebody else, an imperial sovereign citizen of our coming empire and fusion of the 10, the 50 and the 3, the 63. We have to concord and agree, of course, to all those plateaus and all that manifestation as we are here. Can I salute, of course, the public workers? I wonder what are they gonna do, and what are they gonna do with that, and what are they gonna do for the go, you know? Something which we have to do, and something which we gotta get on that rock and rolling, you know, to get it on the drill, you know, is something which we have to be conclusive about, and we have to get doing with that, and that is just something which we have to do, you know, so. Across here on the other side, and that's what we do, you know. That's how we gotta get drilling with that, and so we gotta get on that level of things where we are, and we do that prudence, and we do that integration, and we do that love in here, you know. I wonder what it is that is gonna be built here and get. Anyway, so those special interests, also known as obsessive interest, are what preoccupy us the most. And this is one building which I like. So of course an N.A.C.W.P would know so much if it would be architecture. That N.A.C.W.P would be so much knowledge, would possess so much knowledge, information, and technical details about all the signs, of course, the signs which they are, of course, those Doric or Corinthian, whatever the case may be, of all those signs which the N.A.C.W.P will be able to tell you all the information about architecture. But for me, it's geopolitics. So now we're gonna get back into my sphere, into geopolitics. So the Concordiate is, of course, my sphere, my domain, my realm is, of course, geopolitics. My realm, my domain is, of course, geopolitics. So being that it is geopolitics, sports and fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll, I'm gonna stick to what I know best. Although, like I said, an N.A.C.W.P might know exactly what those pillars are, whether they're Ionic, Doric, or Corinthian type of architecture from the Greek or Roman style of architecture. I can just tell you just generally that it is Greco-Roman, but I can't really discern if there's either Ionic, Doric, or Corinthian. So those are the three main architectural pillars of that type of architecture. I would have to check, because I really don't know, but I love the building here. It's just beautiful, but it requires a little bit of color. I would definitely paint some red and green, maybe some whole building rainbow, but it's kind of grayish for me, you know. My taste is a bit more on the colorful side, you know. So being that it's more on the colorful side, I would definitely paint the building, but nonetheless it is great. So geopolitics, now I'm gonna discuss geopolitics, because that is basically pretty much what I know. And being that I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist, and that is of course the main development of the strategies, of course, in terms of geopolitics, as I develop strategies for the North American Collective, what I call the North American Civilizational Complex, or the Great North American Civilizational Complex, because we constitute a civilization in North America, whereas Canada, Quebec, coupled with the United States as well, we constitute this North American Civilizational Complex. And we're not totally divorced, but we are distinct from Western civilization. So those points, or categories, if you will, have to be fully understood. So we're not divorced from Western civilization, but we are distinct. So we have our distinctions from Western civilization without being divorced as a North American collective. And of course, Mexico is part of North America. Haiti as well, Dominican Republic, and paradox is Cuba is still socialist communist officially, but Cuba is also part of North America and the North American Civilizational Complex. And some go even below Mexico, including Guatemala, Panama, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Honduras, and other countries below, south of Mexico, that is, south of Mexico. I'm gonna say south. I'm willing to make a certain compromise that it could go up to the tip of Venezuela, Colombia, you know, Ecuador, because that's the northern tip of the South America, I guess. Then we have to divide only north and south, though, right? Because there is no more Central America, whence Panama, El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, Guatemala, beautiful garden. They're usually considered Central America, right? You have North, South, and Central. Although we, North, Canada, we're north of the United States, and they're south of us. So when you take Canada and the United States together, we're gonna fuse basically the North through North, strong, and free, with the land of the brave and the land of the free and the home of the brave. But it's not enough, because we both got free. We're the true North, strong, and free, and my brothers and sisters in the 50, they're land of the free, home of the brave, land of the free. But it's not enough for me to be strong, brave, and free. There's missing something, maybe a few things. Loving and just, righteous, that is, to try to be just, while also admitting that as an individual sovereign citizen with Asperger's, I have my awkward, weird sexuality, but I only express and would engage in my weird, awkward sexuality with fellow brothers and sisters, whether you're a black woman, white man, or black man and white woman, or white or black or rainbow, whether a man or a woman, being that I am pansexual. But you have to be of age with people who are 18 plus. Although I guess here in Quebec, Montreal, well, the age of consent is 16, but I would apply the same principles as when you go to buy cigarettes or alcohol or legal cannabis here, because it's legal coast to coast, if you will, too. I would apply those type of principles of 18 plus, in other words. So even though I have a weird, awkward, strange pansexual sexuality, might be funny as hell to some, probably like a comedy, or oh, what the F is this, then, well, but I would only engage with consenting adults. I would have the morality and ethics to know that this is where we draw some lines, and, you know, although I'm weird socially, I understand the social barriers of age restrictions, and to impede on somebody who's below the age would not be ethically, morally so. So I have an ethics, a morality, and a comprehension, but not, like I said, not in the dictums where the prepositions would be that those limitations have to be incurred reciprocally. The doors would close for me to express and engage in my weird, awkward sexuality with somebody, who doesn't consent, or non-consensual, of course, or adult. So those things have to be okay to go, But like I said, I'm not sexually frustrated. I don't have sexual frustrations or things of that nature. I'm just friends with benefits and 18 plus. And my only stress now is financial, And my dream, my work is very important because I've been working at it for years and years and years. And it happens that paradoxically, it kind of is for today. So now I'm gonna go stick to what I know a lot. As an N.A.C.W.P, I have this special interest, which is geopolitics. For years and years and years, I've been engaged in geopolitical studies. And it seems that even before 2014, because I have documents from high school when I was related, of course, that I wanted to go to Kingston Military College, and I have a letter of recommendation, although my personal memory from before spring 2014 is on the blackout, so I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014 spring. So being that is a problem for me, for of course the memory that I don't remember my life prior to that. I just remember, of course, I was attacked by surprise a few years ago and hit my head on the concrete and was bloodied up, and I was bloodied up, I was bloodied up and went to the Jewish General Hospital. I had a dislocated right shoulder, so I was bloodied up, and I have to retrieve those documents. Gonna go this week or next week. I have a deadline by September 11th to do it again. So yeah. So I was attacked viciously. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I fell, hit my head, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and ever since then, of course, I moved, and I used to live in a very moldy place, lots of MOLD. It was like a tight, small prison cell in City in Montreal. It was basically like a small prison cell, underground type of prison cell, but it wasn't really a prison cell. It was just small. Even the bathroom was like so small. It was a quarter of a bathroom. I didn't even have a bathtub, and the kitchen was in my room basically. So I don't know how long I lived there. I don't know if I did drugs, if I was a junkie. If I was a junkie, was I a junkie? If I was a junkie, was I a junkie? Before spring 2014, I don't do drugs now, but maybe I was a junkie, maybe I was an alcoholic, maybe I drank my aspiness. Alcohol, because sometimes that's what causes memory loss or trauma, or alcohol when you're an alcoholic. And then you get off the booze, you stop drinking, and if you stop drinking, you're an alcoholic. Maybe that's why that sometimes causes memory loss or trauma to the head, or even drugs, hard drugs. If I used for a few years, let's say if for 4 years, so prior to spring 2014, if for a few years, whatever those years were, if I was deeply drinking, if I was drinking a lot, and then when I moved I stopped drinking or I stopped consuming alcohol, then if I did that, stop drinking alcohol, then of course if I stop drinking, stop doing alcohol, then of course maybe it is of course something which I would have been able to do, and maybe that's what got me out of my depression and my suicidalness, and because I was depressed and suicidal even after I moved. But maybe prior to moving, maybe that's what I was. Maybe I was a junkie. I did too much alcohol, and I did too much whatever the case may be, So here I gotta turn my heads left and right here. Gotta salute the public workers changing the aqueducts, some good job with that. We need a mass investment in the public works to do, and public works to do. So it's a lot of arbeit, a lot of work, which we need to get doing on that. So that is something which we have, of course, to integrate in. Of course, the things which we have to get related on the go, and we have to get related on that left and right and Z, and that is just something which we have to formulate for the left and for the right, and for all the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, the plumbers, and the welders, I guess, and all those daycares to change some diapers. That is, of course, something which we have to appellate and have, of course, to fully be aware of the privilege of civilization. That was my thesis back in 2023, called The Privilege of Civilization. And yes, civilization is a privilege. We got a lot of work to do, and I'm mostly about work. I admire people who can drive these machines. Take some brains, take some muscles. I really love big machines like this, and I always try to meditate their technical capabilities and what they can do in terms of how much they can lift, how much gas do they spend, all those more. I always have questions, maybe this is an Aspie characteristics. We tend to focus sometimes on weird details, sometimes details on XYZ, whatever the case may be, the situational complexities, but that is just what we have to engage in. My eye gotta blink. That's better. I got some dust in it, and now it's much better. So back to geopolitics now. Leave the baggage at the door. We're entering my king, my realm. In 2019, in October, I predicted what's happening now. So I predicted that there is going to be an international conflagration. So I created a workout training program system to go hand in hand with such a scenario. You heard that correct. I'm gonna repeat. Back in October 2019, I started October 17th, to be precise, after a few weeks of in-depth geopolitical analysis, study, and revisions of my theories and writings and work up to that point. And again, since I have this letter and I did graduate high school, I have this letter from, supposedly I wanted to go to Kingston Military College, but that's more than 2 decades old, so when I graduated high school. But like I said, I probably was involved in geopolitical studies for a long time. It's just that I just don't remember my life prior to 2014. I have trouble accessing memories, and if you ask me, in the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then I have a pretty good rote memory like that. But just my life prior to 2014 is much of a mystery. I got plenty of scars. It's not that important. What is important is that you listen carefully now to what I'm about to say. So back in 2019, and I got proof for this, I predicted that there's gonna be an international conflagration on the horizon. That's a nice garden. Love it. This one also, but it's the same, but just two sides. So back in 2019, October to be precise, October 2019, I had concluded that humanity, we are set again, we're going towards a course, towards an international conflagration. So that we are headed towards an international conflagration back in 2019. And so I even made and created a workout training program system, right? Made to go with such a scenario where we would have to mobilize the citizens, and citizens would have to get in shape. It is an efficient, simple, effective workout training program system, which I am advocating for the incorporation in our public security forces, our police, and our armed forces to, of course, implement it, and of course to do it, and of course to do it also in universities and even high schools as young as 7, because it's basically push-ups, hawks, what I call hawks, H-A-W-Ks, when you have to go on the toes and spread your wings, and squats and marching steps. So of course, those are the main prepositions, the main constituents of the exercise. And of course you have to keep it in motion, and you're allowed 93 minutes to do the workout. You can do it with less. So my ranges, I average, it takes me about an hour. It takes me about an hour to do it, but I range anywhere between 44 minutes, the lowest, 44 minutes and 50 seconds was the lowest that I performed it in, and the highest was 88 minutes and 44 seconds, something like that. But your one is a quarter 93 minutes. So I'm going to discuss it now that I'm on it. So once you start, these are the rules. So once you start the countdown, right? Once you start the countdown, you're allowed 93 minutes. But it's actually 93 minutes, 44 seconds, and 9/11ths of a second. So almost 45 seconds. But it's really, the whole term is 93 minutes. That's an hour and 33 minutes. So it's 93 minutes, 44 seconds, and 9/11ths of a second. That's the whole duration that you're allocated. The time allocated for you want to complete it successfully. So once you start that countdown, you gotta march, jog, run in between the sets. You got to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 hawks. You can check out, I did it, I performed more than 372 sessions, and I gotta take that salutation for that yellow. In one of the videos, we were here filming at night, and my fellow citizen, I laughed. He said to some other of my family here, the Canadian North American family, I know, who come to join us, that, hey, this is the yellow flowers, which I love. And he joked, he said free showers until 9 o'clock, and I said that was a good one. That was a good joke. So that's the workout. You got to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hawks within 93 minutes, 44 seconds, and 9/11th of a second, without pause. Once you start the countdown, you got to march, jog, run, or walk. Keep it in motion. So you can walk, you can jog, you can run, you can march. So in other words, you can't pause. You can't stop until you complete it. Once you start the countdown, so you start the 93 minutes countdown, counterclockwise, right? 93 minutes, 44 seconds. "44 seconds. 44 seconds and 9/11ths of a second, which is basically close to 45 seconds. Basically close to 45 seconds. But it's 44 seconds and 9 divided by 11, so it's fraction, 9/11ths. 9/11ths, 9/11. Here I gotta be careful. Look at the hawk. That's a good omen. The bus just passed. That's a black hawk. It has that red. See how it's white below and black? It's white and black, and it has a red head. Red-headed hawk. That's an H-A-W-K. They roam. And there's the way they fly. They spread their wings, and it goes to the mountain. Maybe it's gonna go. Yes, that's my totem bird. The hawk, hawk, hawk. So that's a good omen, because I'm going to my second home, Mount Royal. We're already on the mountain now. On the one of the three peaks. West Mount proper. West Mount. Really on the mountain, the three-peak mountain, which is called Mount Royal, and of course it has West Mount, Outremont, West Mount, and of course the other one is, so Outremont, West Mount, and Mount Royal. Outremont, West Mount, and Mount Royal. The whole complex, three-peak mountain complex, is called Mount Royal. And of course, just that's what it is with that. That's how we gotta go. So just that is that drill, and there's this flag spotted. I always have the flag on me. So if you're eligible to do that workout, that is basically the fundamental physical requirement for anybody to be eligible for the Dragon Army, whose motto is, nobody is born a dragon. You become one, not even myself. Officially changed my name, but still gotta pay the money to officially have it changed, because Adrian Hanna Dragon, Adrian Hanna Dragon, Adrian H, dragon, Adrian Hanna dragon, you know. Nobody's born a dragon, become one, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we got that go, you know, and that's what it is for that, and that's what it is for the go, and that's how we got, you know. Yeah, so that's basically what it is, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll, you know. So that's basically what we're gonna drill it with. So that workout training program system is an efficient, effective workout training program system, and that's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get drilling. So it's an efficient, effective workout training program system, which is meant not to make it for, of course, aesthetic reason, but to integrate, and of course to make it so that we have an integrated workout program system, which is a workout training program system which requires no equipment. It requires no equipment, and it is meant, and it does just that. It increases general overall fitness. That's why I have been and will continue to advocate for NATO member countries, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries, to implement it and integrate it, you know. NATO member countries to integrate it, you know. And that's just what it is, for NATO member countries to integrate it. And that is just something which we have to fully understand about the uniqueness and the simplicity, of course, of the workout training program system, which has to be relegated in all the possibilities where we are engaged in this scenario where my predictions have come to fruition, true. So what I have predicted in 2019 in October is basically happening now. Now, of course, I did not predict every detail by detail, and I have to be honest, and I am, because I say it in my videos, I did not predict the deterioration of relations with the United States. So the trade war with Canada, I did not predict that it was going to escalate, and I did not predict the deterioration of relations with the USA, where I was born 3 times in past lives, previous incarnations. So I did not predict that. I did not predict that. Of course, so the fact is that I did not predict that. I did not predict that, you know. So that wasn't my prediction. That's what I did not predict, you know. That there's gonna be a deterioration of relations with the United States. That's new for me as well.